The Cadillac Ranch is one of Texas's most iconic roadside attractions. 10 vintage Cadillacs, half buried nose first in the dirt outside Amarillo, covered in decades of graffiti. To most, it's art, quirky, a place to pull over, spray paint a name, and move on. But beneath the surface, literally, there are whispers. Whispers of death, of rituals, of bones. And some say the land itself never wanted the Cadillacs there to begin with. This is File 003, Ghosts Beneath the Dust, the truth behind Cadillac Ranch. Cadillac Ranch was installed in 1974 by a San Francisco-based art collective called Ant Farm. Funded by an eccentric Amarillo millionaire named Stanley Marsh III, the project was designed to be interactive. It wasn't supposed to stay pristine. In fact, it was meant to decay, inviting the public to deface, spray, and evolve it over time. And that's exactly what happened. Over the decades, layers of spray paint formed a kind of graffiti sediment. The cars now sit like multicolored fossils, jutting out of the dusty plains, constantly shifting with every new visitor. On the surface, it's playful, rebellious, but not long after the exhibit went up, things started to get weird. Cattle were said to avoid the area. Radios and passing cars would sometimes fill with static or strange whispers. People claimed to feel uneasy, like they were being watched. These were written off as small-town gossip, until symbols began appearing in the graffiti. Symbols not tied to any gang or artist tag, but older, darker, ritualistic ones. One local girl, interviewed in the early 1980s, recalled seeing a group of hooded figures out near the site after midnight. She had gone with friends to paint one of the Cadillacs and caught movement out of the corner of her eye. They left immediately. She never went back. Another visitor, a man traveling cross-country, claimed his dog refused to leave the car and growled constantly during their stop. Rumors spread. Dead animals were found nearby. Birds, a goat, even a mutilated coyote. Police chalked it up to natural causes or teenagers playing pranks, but the pattern kept repeating. And then, in 1992, something even darker happened. A 19-year-old drifter from Oklahoma vanished after reportedly visiting Cadillac Ranch. His abandoned van was found less than 2 miles away, but no trace of him was ever recovered. There was no physical evidence, no signs of foul play, but his disappearance was enough to get people talking again. Talking about what was buried beneath the cars. Talking about the land itself. Because here's what most people don't know. Long before the Cadillacs, this ground had a reputation. The land where Cadillac Ranch now sits was once part of the Comancheria, the ancestral territory of the Comanche Nation and other Plains tribes. This stretch of the Texas Panhandle has a violent, blood-soaked past. Raids, massacres, forced relocations. There's a reason the soil out here is red. Local legend says there was a battle not far from where the Cadillacs now stand. A group of settlers, cut off from their wagon train, were attacked during a lightning storm. The details are hazy, passed down through family lines and campfire retellings, but many versions end with a pile of shallow graves. One of those graves, they say, was never covered properly, the bones left exposed to the sun. Whether that's true or not, there is documented evidence of conflict in the region. And documented deaths. Some researchers believe that even if no curse exists, the emotional and physical trauma of the land may have left a kind of energetic residue, a stain that clings to whatever's built there. That brings us to Stanley Marsh III. The man behind Cadillac Ranch wasn't your typical art benefactor. Known for his bizarre behavior, off-color interviews, and willingness to provoke, Marsh thrived on controversy. He once paid for fake traffic signs to be installed around Amarillo that said things like, "Road does not end," or "Lubbock is a greedy town." He was eccentric, no doubt. But later in life, Marsh's reputation darkened. He was accused of multiple counts of sexual misconduct involving teenage boys. Several lawsuits followed, some settled, some still unresolved at the time of his death in 2014. People began to wonder, was Cadillac Ranch a playful artistic statement, or something more sinister? It didn't help that Marsh never allowed soil tests on the property. In fact, he was reportedly very private about the exact installation site, even though it was widely visited and photographed. And as interest in paranormal activity grew in the early 2000s, several ghost hunters were denied access to investigate the area, despite public interest. Still, the stories kept spreading. Visitors reported hearing whispering near the cars, even when no one else was around, One man claimed he saw a handprint appear on the hood of a Cadillac he had just finished painting, no one else nearby. Another swore she saw movement beneath the dirt, like something trying to crawl up from under the car. These stories are easy to dismiss, but there are enough of them, spanning decades and coming from different people, that they begin to form a pattern. And if that pattern is real, it may point to a deeper truth, that something old, something violent, and something restless still lingers beneath Cadillac Ranch. So, what's really happening out there? Is it just art on the prairie? 10 Cadillacs slowly rusting under West Texas sun, buried nose first in dusty soil? Or is there more to it? Maybe the land really does carry a weight, a memory. Maybe the violence of the past never quite fades, especially in places soaked in blood and loss. Or maybe the very act of driving steel into the earth, 10 times, like stakes, was enough to stir something best left sleeping. Some locals believe Cadillac Ranch sits on a ley line, an invisible path of energy connecting spiritually charged places across the globe. Others say it's a kind of accidental altar. The symmetry of the cars, the ritual of constant painting, the strange draw it has, even to people who don't know why they stopped. It's not just tourists tagging metal. It's something closer to devotion. One Amarillo woman claims she's driven past the ranch every day for 17 years and never once looked directly at it. She says she feels the weight in her chest when it comes into view. She always averts her eyes. Others report bizarre dreams after visiting, visions of being buried alive, of metallic creaking, of muffled screams under layers of dirt and steel. None of this can be proven, but it all comes from somewhere. The official story will tell you Cadillac Ranch is nothing more than a funky art installation meant to capture the spirit of Route 66 and car culture, a living canvas for the people. That's the safe version, the version that sells postcards and brings in school buses. But then there's the version whispered by truckers, by locals who've lived there too long, by those who felt it. That version says something was disturbed when those Cadillacs went into the ground, that something old, maybe ancient, now watches from beneath the dust, and that each time someone comes to paint, another layer is added to the ritual, another offering, another invitation. So, if you ever find yourself near Amarillo, and the wind is still, and the sky is the color of rust, just listen. The cars don't whisper, the land does, and it remembers everything. File 03, Ghosts Beneath the Dust, is now closed.